Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's me, your old pal Orpheus, and we're here with another edition of Orpheus Plays here on Blade and Sorcery, the fabulous world where you can kill anybody you want and you won't get a knock on the door later. Anyway, I hope you're doing well wherever you are today. Whether it's day or night, or you got online and ordered something and you don't remember what it was, and suddenly a semi-truck is backing into your driveway with the big name of that online retailer on it. Oh God, what did I order? Anyway, hope you're doing good wherever you are. And we're going to kick things off today. I want to talk about something that's kind of weird and kind of interesting, and something that's it's mildly controversial, but stick with me. You'll see what this is in a second. And it's about... well, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. Anyway, we are here in the Citadel today. We are playing the PC version of the game. This is a map that's only on the PC version so far. I don't know if they're going to bring it to the Nomad Quest 2 port. We'll see, maybe at some point along the way. But we're going to be doing a war zone today. That is where different teams come out, and they could kind of care less about me unless I do anything to distract them. And speaking of distract them, I'm going to beat them up while they are fighting each other. So yeah, another good day for murder here in the world of Blade and Sorcery. Yeah, I love this game so much. In case you can tell, I kind of love this game. So what I wanted to talk to... oh, you notice this. Hey, by the way, I have an M16 here. Hold on. Let's do our first traditional slow motion kill of the day. Why? Just why? Why? First traditional slow motion kills of the day. Oh, that's so... it feels so wrong. Anyway, so for a very long time, I've kind of been at odds with my family over something, and, I don't speak to my family anymore, so I guess I'm not quite at odds with them anymore. Right now, it's kind of, I'm kind of, at odds with my wife a little bit. We kind of, have a light... oh, no. We kind of have a light... I wouldn't say argument. We discuss it, okay, honestly, most couples will tell you, we don't fight. No, seriously, my wife and I don't fight. I have the elven bow. Right in the head. But, my wife and I do not fight. We'll both get upset about the same thing sometimes. And we'll, talk about it at the same time, with raised voices. But we're not, yelling at each other or anything. It's kind of funny how we do it. Anyway, so we kind of... I guess disagree would be the best way to put it on this. Let me just... I'll cut to the chase. For years now, I have wanted to be frozen when I die, okay? So, that cryonic preservation thing. Bye-bye. So that cryonic preservation thing. Oh, take that. What are you doing, Mr. Dirt? Aha! Both of you. So that cryonic preservation thing, right? When you die, you get, pumped full of, antifreeze and stuff, and they dunk you in liquid nitrogen. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on how that works in just a second, but I want to kind of explain. I want to explain why this is something. Oh God, what's going on? I want to explain kind of what my thought process is behind this, because some people are like, "What the hell?" Right? Like, Orpheus, why do you want to be frozen? That's kind of gross. Okay, that's that. Dagger. So here's my thought process, and before you start going, "Oh my God, no, gross!" See, no, you're a weirdo. Hold on. There's some logic behind this, okay? So let's go over some percentages. All right. So, your main options today, if something happens and you are to pass away, your main options, right, for aftercare, interesting way to put it, right? Your main options are the following. You can be buried. You can be buried, you can be burned. Or you can do something else crazy like donate your body to science or whatever. Now, that bury option has a lot of different things that you can do, all the way up to more fringe stuff like they'll they'll put a suit on you that is laced with fungus, and so like it turns you into a mushroom. Kind of. Anyway, so like your two options are being buried. Nice miss, Orpheus. And being cremated. Okay, so let's talk about percentages. All right. So if you are buried, wow, ooh, wow, look at those textures. So if you are buried, what's the percentage chance of you ever coming back? What is going on? Oh no. Woo, Unity engine. Anyway, so what's the percentage chance of you coming back? Let's say, let's pick a number, right? So I'm not saying that some weird miracle where you were misdiagnosed or something. Like, if you're going to get buried, you're probably going to be completely pickled in embalming fluid, okay? So what's the percentage chance of you coming back in 100 years from being buried? And you're all, of course, going 0, right? Okay. What's the percentage chance of you coming back? It gets even sillier. What's the percentage chance of you coming back in 100 years from being burned? Okay. Of course, we're all going 0, right? Okay. So, all right. So what's your percentage chance of coming back from being frozen? In 100 years, what's your percentage chance of coming back from being frozen? Now, we're not really sure right now. We can't put a... Hey. We can't put a definite number on it, right? But I'll tell you one thing. It's better than 0, right? So... Okay, let me tell you a little story about how this started. My father went to school with one of the pioneers of the cryonics movement, okay? They all knew this guy, and they kind of thought he was a weirdo back in the 50s and 60s on into the 70s when he started developing this technology. And he was one of a couple scientists that branched off to do this stuff. Now, the main idea is he came up with a process that would preserve the body after death in order to, have the prospect of doing something, coming back at a later date and either being able to cure the disease that killed somebody, or hey, let's, you know what, I had a suggestion from someone. I'm gonna enchant this, see if I can sweep his legs out. Nope, I'm not. I'm not as adept at that yet. I'll sweep his legs out and then smash him to the ground. Anyway, so the idea is you at some point you're able to fix the disease that caused the person to die, and then you can resurrect them and somehow get them to come back from the dead. Okay. Well, ew, pink mist. Oh, that gives me life. I am a vampire. Blah. Anyway, so the idea again, bring someone back to life, and whatever indeterminate period of time. Wow. In order to, just take care of that. And, immortality, right? Or at least an extremely lengthened lifespan at that point. You're time traveling, right? It's Futurama. You get frozen and come back in 1,000 years or whatever. So I was always interested in the process. And I will go into the process briefly in a couple of minutes here. But I was always interested in this process of, you can get frozen and they can kind of fix you, and I've always wanted to see the distant future, right? You'll wake up in flying cars and stuff, right? So the idea has always been really intriguing to me. Well, my family is kind of religious in some strange ways. And so the concept was always total blasphemy. And even though this guy that helped develop it was friends with my parents and my dad, it was always no, he's a nut job, right? There's no way. Well, so you started seeing documentaries on this stuff in the late 80s. And it was they treated it was on Discovery and stuff. Where they treated it like it was this strange tales of the bizarre, right? It was with the creepy music in the background and everything, and just it was always treated like this weird fringy thing. Okay, So admittedly, the first generations of it, a little strange. Like, one of the first people that ever had it done was baseball player Ted Williams. All right, so you might be familiar with that name, you might not. I'm not a baseball person, so I'm not as familiar. However, I do know the name Ted Williams, right? But he was one of the first people. His head was frozen, and that's one of the options. You can have a full body freeze, or they can cut your head off and freeze that. I guess the idea is that once the technology progresses to that point, you're not going to need to have the body there necessarily. They'll be able to regrow it for you. Hi, punch, a little punch. Here, come here, bro. Oh, yeah. Worth it for the editing. Totally. Anyway, I have to edit the sound out when that happens. But, so, okay. You can have the head thing done and the full body. Okay. Well, back when they first came up with this, very crude. I mean, it was basically, mummify, wrap the person in cloth and stuff and then stick them in a tank of liquid nitrogen. Okay, so admittedly, that's not the best way to do it. So over the years, they've developed it. So, okay, you're asking yourself, Orpheus, what is this whole cryonics thing? If you're not familiar with it, let's go into just briefly what it is. As I blast these people completely off the side and let them fall to their doom. Ooh, gross. So, let's explain briefly what cryonics is and what it entails. Alright, so there are many species of animals on this planet that can go down to essentially freezing, or be completely solidly frozen and come back from that, okay? Several species of frogs. There are some mammals that can go through that as well. Where is everybody? Come here, I want to shoot you with my bow. So there are several species of animals that can completely freeze. They're just bouncing off of... I turned off that mod for the rip people in half. What's going on? Anyway, so lots of species do this. It's completely natural, and, things like frogs, you can completely freeze some kinds of frogs, and then you can completely thaw them out later, and they're fine, right? And in the early testing days of cryonics, they actually did this to a beagle. I know, it's kind of sad, but here's the thing. They did full testing on this beagle before and after the process. And it was neurological testing and cellular testing and metabolic testing and everything. And not only did the dog come out fine, the dog lived a very long, very healthy life, as far as I remember. And, no damage, nothing done at all. Okay. So what is the idea here? The idea is, again, like I've said, to kind of... oh, God. It's stuck on there, Mom! Anyway, so you get to the point where someone's dying or about to die. There's a... Wow. We'll talk about that line in just a second. But you die, they come in, and what they'll do is they'll collect the body. And there's usually, if you go and you do this with whatever place, there's a few places that do it. One of them is in Las Vegas, I think, and another one's in where? Michigan. I think there's a couple in Michigan. And I think there's one in California somewhere. Anyway, so what they'll do is once you pay for this thing, and when you pay for your preservation, again, you pay for the head or the full body, and then part of that cost, you can roll your life insurance into it to pay for it, right? So part of your life insurance goes towards this process, or you can, put them in your will or something like that. You are executed, lady. And so when you do this, it also covers the cost of the preservation, right? And so this place has a lifelong trust that is there to set up for the business, and trust me, it's been around since the early mid-'80s, and it's still going completely strong. Plenty of people, plenty of clients. It's not like they're hurting for business. Trust me, you'd think this is something fringe. It's not. Okay. So what they'll do, they have this team that will come to wherever your hospice is or something like that, and they'll kind of stand by, right? And they've got this machinery. It's kind of like life support equipment, but it's more like designed for people who aren't alive, right? It just kind of keeps the blood flowing and stuff like that. Keeps them at a lower temperature and everything. They'll come and they'll collect the patient. They still call him a patient at that point, not a customer or a body. Because they are. They're preserving. This is for them. And honestly, it's a medical procedure, and they treat it like it is, like it's an emergency room situation. So they'll go, and the whole team will get them chilled down, and they'll hook up a little system to kind of start circulating glycol. It's a antifreeze through their system, and it helps preserve things. It helps to slow things down. And it helps to keep the degradation from happening. All right. So they'll start slowly pumping in that stuff, but they want the blood to be going around in the body. Where is everybody? They want the blood to be circulating as well. And so they'll do that. And they'll take the body or the patient to the institute, the place where they're doing it, and they will start a process where it's kind of like embalming. If you're familiar with how that works, they remove all the fluids in the body and replace them with something else. But for embalming, it's for the purposes of cosmetics, right? It's supposed to look good, okay? For cryonics, it's completely separate. They are doing a process that will extend the life of the person. Where did everyone go? You go find them. I'll follow you. And so they'll replace all the blood and everything with glycol and everything, and they will. Did they go around this way? I hear people. Oh yes, they're fighting here. Dun, 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 dun. So again, they'll completely replace blood fluids and stuff, and then they'll wrap them in. Usually, it's kind of like a sleeping bag, and they'll lower them into a tank or slowly start chilling them down in a vat. Okay. Well, the problem has been, up until very recently, within about the last 10, 15 years, the problem is with freezing something is if you've ever watched something freeze in like slow motion or anything, okay, you've probably seen it on some documentary or a movie or something like that, where ice crystals will start forming. You see them creep in and start like spining out and all these like sharp edges. Okay, well, so when that happens on a cellular level, like all the way down to your individual cells, it basically Swiss cheeses all of them. Okay? Ooh, we're going to try an epic strike here. Dun, 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 dun. Hi. It's a flying ass strike. Not exactly as dignified as I would have hoped, but it worked. So the problem is with that is like it perforates everything, right? So here's a good example. Get a nice steak and take a look at it, kind of poke it with your fingers and get an idea for everything, and then stick it in the freezer, right? Stick that steak in the freezer. It doesn't matter how well you like wrap it up, right? Put it in a vacuum container or whatever so it doesn't get freezer burned. And then completely freeze it. Come back to it in a month, right? And then poke it around a little bit. Do the same thing that you did before when it was thawed, okay? It's a different piece of meat, okay? It's a little spongy. It's a little bit mushy, like a tiny bit gray in spots. Well, that's fine for meat, right? But it's not fine when you're trying to bring someone back from the dead. Okay. So, up until recently, the problem is that you would have ice crystals go, and it kind of turns everything to goo. Okay. So, the newer processes do something called glassification, where they get the process down to such a level that they instead of transforming everything into ice crystals, it flash freezes it, right? So, it turns it into basically glass. And so when that happens, you don't have nearly as much as of damage to the cellular level that you would with regular freezing. A little flick on the way by. That was awesome. Ooh, she stood back up. At least part of her did. So the glassification allows for better preservation of the tissues and everything else like that. Well, here's the rub. Here's the tough part of this whole process. Nice. Well, the freezing part, now that they've got that pretty much almost perfected, right? The first generation's, like I said, a little rough, but they've got it almost perfected. But the problem is, they don't have any of the thawing processes nearly as perfected, but that's kind of moot as it is, because they don't have the technology yet to to bring anybody back to life, right? There's no way for them to give me the sword. There's no way for them to reanimate the body and repair those tissues. So, okay, here's the funny part. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, the idea was, all right, well, all we'll do is we need to develop some magical technology, right? Some sort of technology that will go down to a cellular level and repair things. And my idea back then was all the rage in the news and the medical community, which was stem cells, okay? Stem cells are cells from your body that you can put somewhere. You can inject them somewhere, and they'll become that kind of cell, right? So, okay. So they'll you inject them into the heart, they'll become heart cells. You inject them into the spine, they'll become spinal cord cells, stuff like that. All right. So my idea was always, well, just bathe the body in stem cells, right? It'll figure it out. Okay, well, I mean, that idea is not really as viable as my younger self would have hoped. Pink mist. I have the power now. But the idea was always like, okay, well, stem cell therapy isn't really that versatile, right? So it was like, well, how are we going to do it? Well, in sci-fi, they've talked about for years nanotechnology, right? It's a big thing in Star Trek, especially with the Borg, right? They convert the bodies via nanotechnology. All right. So the problem was that we always thought that was pure sci-fi. There's no way we're going to be able to develop technology that's that small that we can do, body cellular repair and everything with. Well, hey, look at the news. We're starting to develop nanotechnology. One of the news stories that I just saw was how within 10 years, they're pretty sure that they're going to have nano machines that are able to go into your body and repair certain things like cancers and tumors and like spinal cord breaks and stuff like that. I would say within another 10 years, that's my estimation, based upon the Orpheus scientific method. I would say another 10 years before we have nanotechnology that can get in and actually repair things individually on a cellular level. Like, essentially, you inject a swarm of nanotech bots into somebody. All right, bro. And it repairs all the cells and everything. Well, so this Cryonics Institute is there to kind of prepare a farm of bodies to have available for it. Now, here's where it gets a little creepy. The first generations of people are probably going to be the ones that they operate on or try this process on first. And you're going to see probably a lot of people that are a little bit drooling into their soup and clapping their hands kind of thing, not making much other noises than that. If you've ever seen a movie called The Man with Two Brains, Steve Martin flick, amazing movie if you can go find that one. Trust me, that's a good movie. It's funny if you just kind of check your brain at the door. But that was one of the side effects when they didn't do it right. They just kind of clap their hands. But the first couple of attempts are going to be kind of like that. I'm pretty certain they're going to be kind of gross, and we're going to have to steady ourselves because that's going to be a little weird. But after that, they'll probably perfect it. And so here's the thing: I want to be frozen when I die. I absolutely want to be frozen because what I said in the beginning is absolutely the idea here. What's your percentage chance of coming back from being buried? 0. What's your percentage chance of coming back from being cremated? 0. What's the percentage chance that the technology will advance even more with cryonics and make it so you can come back in 100 years from being frozen? Again, I don't know if it's 0%, but it's greater than 0%, right? It's at least there's a variable to work with at that point. There's a foundation to build the house on, so to speak, right? And so I think that's going to be my choice. Now, whether or not I can convince Mrs. Orpheus of such an endeavor before I kick off from this planet is another method of persuasion altogether. She still thinks it's kind of creepy. I don't know. I don't think it's as creepy as we all give it. It's just a scientific thing, right? I mean, it's either that or donate your body to science, right? You know, one of the twisted things that I've always kind of dark fantasied about, right? So I become beloved somehow, right? And you know, this part of the of the creepy thought experiment never really had gone into how I became a beloved figure. So we're going to talk someone like, you know, Dave Thomas from Wendy's, or like Colonel Sanders or something. You know, someone that you would completely recognize. And then I donate my body to science. And there it is. There's the picture in the movie. You have this beloved figure that you've spent, you know, 3/4 of the movie building up. Loved by millions. Household name. That would be great. Orpheus, a household name. And, you know, then you donate your body to science, and they go and they have a slow pan, you know, zoom into a medical training place, and they go down a hallway, and they come into a classroom. Yeah, they come into a classroom, and one of the students is like, you know, oh, we're going to start dissecting cadavers today, and one of the students peels back their sheet to reveal their cadaver, and it's me, that beloved household name, and the person loses their mind, and oh my god, and everyone in the classroom goes, oh my god, it's Orpheus, why? Anyway, I'm kind of a sick person. Woo! But that's the Orpheus difference. Anyway, is that something that you think you would want? Not the creepy thing that I just talked about, but cryonics. Is it? Would you want to be frozen when you die? Is that a thing? I mean, think about it, right? More than a 0% chance. Would you want to come back in the future like that? You know, one of the things that people, when I've discussed this and with other folks, well, you know, in 100 years, everyone you know will be dead, and I'm like, in 100 years. I think I'll be more excited to wake up. Yes, everyone I know will be dead, right? But the hope is that there's some sort of other things in life that can keep me going at that point. Because the wonders of the future, hopefully it's not some weird future where, like, you know, mice have taken over or something like that. But, you know, the wonders of being able to be there in the future and see all that stuff, I think that's kind of the clincher for me, right? Oh, no. Oh, he's been boxed. I unwrapped his head. Anyway, so that's my little sick, twisted thing about being frozen. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it kind of made you think a little bit. Oh, maybe I should get frozen too. Well, I'll reserve the spot next to me in the cooler. We'll be there together. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one here on Orpheus Plays, as this turns into a total mess. And hope you do well. Hope you continue to do well. And you know what? Treat yourself well, because you deserve it. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye!